To presidential elections now, where President Obama is conceding that he will, in fact, be outspent by Mitt Romney's powerful backers. He also admitted that he is losing the so-called ads war on TV and radio. The president was slow at first to sign on to the idea of super PAC funneling, super PACs funneling money into his re-election campaign, but now he has set his own super PAC and is actually asking money for it, albeit begrudgingly. But super PACs aren't the only ones leading the pack when it comes to political funding. You see, while super PACs must eventually disclose where the money is coming from, trade associations actually do not. And they're donating much, much more than the stigmatized super PACs. As one reporter describes it, all of the benefits of a super PAC without any of the filings, disclosures, and fuss, that's what a trade association has. So how is it happening in a country that touts election transparency? Zed Jelani is a communications and outreach coordinator for United Republic and joins me now for more. So can you explain the difference with me, Zed, about trade associations versus super PACs? I mean, we all know that everybody from Stephen Colbert to John Huntsman is attacking super PACs, but a trade associations seem like they're much worse.
Yeah, so, I think there's been a lot of focus sort of on the super PACs, and I think that's appropriate because they're really powerful vehicles for people to sort of move their agenda and impact elections, especially really wealthy individuals like Sheldon Adelson, who may pledge up to $100 million. But I think one of the biggest problems is that super PACs, the donors are actually disclosed. Eventually, the public does know where the super PAC money comes from. The problem is that there's all sorts of vehicles to impact elections where the money isn't disclosed. One is trade associations. So corporations set up basically large nonprofits or social welfare organizations, as they're legally called, and they could donate pretty much unlimited amounts of money, and we have no idea where the money comes from unless one corporation happens to voluntarily disclose, or we just figure it out some other way. And those are actually, in one sense, much more deadly because we don't know where the money's coming from. We don't have to legally.
And they're not gonna, most of them are not gonna disclose it voluntarily, right?
No, I think probably the vast majority of money that we know that goes to trade associations or to what are legally classified as 501c4 or 501c6 organizations, the vast majority of the money that we know that goes there is just because they've tripped up and a corporation has listed it on their some sort of disclosure on their website, or someone has admitted that money has gone somewhere. For example, the largest organization that really is troubling is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is a very, very, very large corporate fund group. And for decades, people have been trying to figure out who its members are and who funds it. We know a few of them because they're on the board, or they voluntarily disclose, a few corporations have, but they have literally hundreds of members, and we don't know who's funding ads when they drop $100 million of ads to impact an election like in 2010.
So let me ask you this. Who's getting more of the funding from trade associations? Is it Republicans or is it Democrats?
At this point, it would tend to lean more towards Republicans. They have sort of an edge when it comes to the congressional elections in 2012 for now, and that may switch going into the election in 2012. Things are kind of up in the air. But historically, these outside groups, they sort of go on one side and the other. It used to be 527 groups, which were the big deal, and those were almost all for the Democrats in 2006. But now, things have shifted a lot, and I think most of the big trade associations and other outside groups are for the Republicans. And actually, as you mentioned, these organizations are spending way more than super PACs, and we have no idea who's funding them, which is a huge problem.
Yeah, and I know that also the big problem about this, or the big question that comes in with trade associations, is right now, U.S. law still bans foreign money from coming into the election process, from being directly funneled into the election process. Does this open the door for foreign countries to fund election campaigns in favor of the candidate that they want?
Well, it's still illegal technically for a foreign corporation to directly fund a candidate. However, they can fund a trade association or one of these large advocacy groups like U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and then those organizations can use their money in elections. They say they separate the money, but as we all know, that's kind of a silly excuse, because if you're not using money for desk chairs, you'll be using them for elections. So if someone's giving you money, it ends up in the same place. So yeah, it can be happening, and the worst part is we could be totally in the dark about it because the disclosure requirements are so weak.
And so their disclosure requirements are so weak, and I know that in particular, American Petroleum Institute is being funded, is funneling a lot of this money into the elections, and that the Saudi Arabian oil companies are funneling money into the American Petroleum Institute. So how can we guarantee that money coming from the API organization isn't coming from Saudi Arabia?
You know, there is no way to guarantee it. They may say, well, we're funding it through our U.S. subsidiary, but it's the same company. They share the funds. They can move funds around to finance anything they want. And so, you know, it's a gigantic problem. And fundamentally, I think we need to start doing what President Obama said last week. He said that we need to start mobilizing a movement for a constitutional amendment to really tackle, you know, the fact that corporate funding an election shouldn't be a First Amendment right. You know, money is property, not speech, right? And not everyone has the same amount of property and the same amount of speech. So, you know, I encourage people to get involved and really tackle this issue. If you go to boldprogressives.org, they've just launched a Take Back Democracy campaign. 50,000 people have joined it, you know, more every day. And we really, really need to start tackling this issue in a way that doesn't look at it as a matter of party, like, oh, well, if we don't do this, Obama won't win, or if we won't do this, you know, Romney will lose. But just look at it as a matter of, you know, you have a tiny group of people with an extraordinary amount of money able to impact elections, and we don't even know who they are. And I don't think that's the kind of system the founders set up when they were setting up American democracy. I think it's evolved the wrong way, and you know, we can only fix it through the sort of concerns that we have about democracy slipping away from whatever ideology you are, just the fact that money is deciding it instead of just good, free debate and democratic discussion.
Well, and you better be careful saying that money isn't speech. I think a couple of people would disagree with you. I mean, money is free speech, according to, you know, several people now. And corporations are people. Money is speech, corporations are people. So very quickly, we just have a couple seconds left. But is there anything you or I or the average Joe can do, I mean, to get money out of politics, or is this the way it's going to be for the rest of our lives?
You know, I definitely think you can do something. You know, I already told you guys one thing. Go to boldprogressives.org and join the Take Back Democracy campaign. It's going to be really exciting. And then from then, just demand to every member of Congress, every city council person, every state legislator say that we don't want big money being speech. We want it all disclosed and we want it regulated. You know, it's not a constitutional right for billionaires to buy our elections. You need to tell that to every elected official you know.
All right, Zed Jelani, he's the Communications and Outreach Coordinator for United Republic. Thank you so much for your opinions.